the information that you need to be a well-informed voter. And as you know, it's not just about the MCAS, it's about the quality of education that our students receive here in Springfield Public Schools. So it's refreshing to see so many people who are concerned about the education of our students here in Springfield and who are willing, ready, and able to be part of the solution. To be part of the solution, because we have to do this together.
Yes.
It takes a village, it takes a city.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that we come together as a city to make sure that we are educating our students so that when they cross that stage, with or without the MCAS as a graduation requirement, that they are armed and ready to take on the world. So, with that said, I would be remiss if I did not thank those who paved the way for me, who allowed me to be able to stand before you as the first female and the first black female superintendent of Springfield Public Schools. I never take it lightly that Kobe exists. Kobe exists, and they took the heat. They walked the very rough, stony road before me so that individuals like myself, Principal Coombs, could stand here before you. Yeah, we still have to deal with some adversity, some microaggressions, some of those things that we know are real and that we still have to face. But I will have to applaud Miss Willette. I have to applaud Dr. Bobby, Dr. Lowe. I have to applaud Miss Holloway and Miss Worthy in her absence for all that they did for us as educators. Prior to my arrival on the scene, they were already making sure that they were educating our students to the highest level. So I'm simply continuing the legacy that they have already laid down for us.
Amen.
So let's put our hands together for Kobe.
We're looking at high school, 10th grade, but the foundation starts early.
Yes.
That foundation is that K1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yes.
So I always promote elementary education. I was in elementary education for about 40 years. It took MCAS. People that maybe don't know that, so that's why I'm giving some background information. Students in grades 3, 4, and 5 take that. And the subjects are English language arts, mathematics, and science, technology/engineering. All the students take these tests, but they vary by grade. They help the teachers. Now this is what they're saying, that they help the teachers, parents, and students know where students are excelling and where they need help. Students in grades 3 through 8 and 10 take MCAS tests in English language arts and math. Students in grade 5, 8, and 1 high school grade take a science MCAS test. Grade 8 students take a civics MCAS test. Now I didn't know that until I did my research. Fewer than half of 1% of all children who take the exam manage to pass. Okay, what is the passing MCAS score? It depends on the grade and the subject. Students must score at least 486 on the English and math test and 470 on the science and technology engineering test. Students who score between 470 and 485 can qualify with an educational proficiency plan. A perfect score in English language arts is 560. Why do kids have to take the MCAS? That's what one of the questions was. It says that the tests are manageable. Kids focus on critical thinking, reading comprehension, and basic math skills. How many students failed MCAS? This year, more than 16,000 Massachusetts students failed to pass their 10th grade MCAS test out of roughly 70,000 10th graders. So that meant that 16,000 did not get a diploma. Did not. Now when we look at the MCAS test and you say, some people ask, what are they testing? What are they testing? a variety of skills. It assesses reading language and writing skills. And that writing, they have to write a long composition. That's 5 paragraphs. It assesses reading, as I said, language and writing skills. Students are tested on their ability to produce clear and coherent writing, demonstrate command of grammar and uses, and apply knowledge of language to understand how it functions in different contexts. That's the background, basically, of the MCAS, and I just gave you a little information on elementary education.
So with that, I heard Dr. Rennick share how many, I think it was statewide, failed the MCAS. But next I'm going to ask our Chief of Family and Community Engagement, he's working on it, Jose Escribano, is just going to share a little bit with you about the statistics for our local students.
This is a tricky one. I hesitate to give a specific number because data is how you present it.
Yeah.
You know, because one of the things that's not considered in this number is, you know, we have a lot of students with autism, and that has been, I mean, we've seen an explosion of students with autism. Autistic students who are not high functioning, and some students with developmental delays and everything else, they take what is called an alt. They have to, it's almost like a portfolio. And so they receive, any student that is on an alt does not receive a high school diploma because they don't take MCAS. You know, so when we start talking about the numbers, they can get a little tricky. Kids can take MCAS, they can fail it, they can apply for a waiver, or, you know. So there's a lot of different ways where the numbers don't always tell you the story. But I think what we really need to look at is, are students prepared, right? Because we can tout whatever graduation number has been touted for how many years, but then we look at, well, how many kids are going to college? So if we're looking at the percentage of kids going to college based on the graduation rate, if we say, hey, MCAS is preparing you for college life, you know, whatever job skill. If we're looking at those numbers, something's not adding up, right? So that's one way to look at the data. The MCAS is taken in 10th grade, you don't graduate till you're a senior. So there's a lot of time in between for kids to drop out. Are they included in that graduation number or not? But just, there's a lot of kids that may be left out of that number. So it might seem small, but then there's a lot of kids who, you know, may be left out of that number. You know, what we don't want is to say that a test tells us, is a predictor of the future. On the pro side, we do need accountability.
The question is, MCAS, do you want it or you don't want it? You're going to say, yes, we want it to be eliminated as part of the requirement. It will still be MCAS. But the trick is, as Dr. Espan has said, you have to have something. There's going to be something. Now, Governor Maura Healey, I'm voting yes, she's voting no. There's leadership in Boston that does not want this to go away, which I think the people are going to speak. They're going to want it to go away. But what's going to happen, the educational leaders, political leaders, they're going to look at the test and find out exactly what we need to do. You have to have something.
I also think you need to be really well aware of the fact that Massachusetts, part of the reason we're great educators, is we have very high standards. Every school, every kid goes through school, and there are the same standards that they have to meet. So as a teacher, I'm teaching to the standards if I'm lucky. Unfortunately, too often we're teaching to the test. Those standards aren't going to go away. they're very good. The MCAS in theory is aligned to those standards. So if we get rid of the graduation requirement, which is all that this does, we're not lowering the standards in any way for what our kids learn. And I think you are a classic example of what harm that graduation requirement can do. So I think it's really important that we let teachers teach. I think if you took away that high stakes, we would have a lot more emphasis on teaching students as opposed to teaching students to take a test. We spend a lot of money and a lot of time teaching kids to take a test, and it's not fair to our kids. It shortchanges them.
When MCAS came in, it was a culture change in my school. No longer could the black and brown kids sit in the back of the class and sleep and play cards, because the teacher had to teach every kid. So whether or not MCAS stays as a graduation requirement or not, you vote your conscience, you vote your experience, but I know for a fact the teachers would say to me, well, what am I supposed to do with these kids? And I would say, teach them. And so I love teachers, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, but teacher preparedness has always been my thing. And teachers have to pass an MTEL to remain teachers in any building. So there's accountability up and down the line. And I would just hate to see us go backwards for the black and brown kids sitting in the back of the class playing cards and nobody teaching.
So again, thank you in advance for coming out on November 5th. Thank you in advance for coming out on November 5th. Amen. Thank you for calling your neighbor who needs a ride. Amen. And making sure you load up the car. That's right. Thank you for providing water or whatever it is that you need to do. Whatever it is that you need to do, thank you in advance for fulfilling your civic responsibility and obligation on November 5th.